This is English Shorthand Dictation number 232 and the dictation speed is 120 words per minute. Ready? Start. Honorable Chairman Sir, it is very encouraging to hear your words which give us a lot of credibility because there are people who still do not accept that there is climate change and it is a crisis. So, I start by thanking you for your words. Today, human beings have become richer, more powerful, and more advanced. The literacy rate is much higher than ever before. But today's youth have never ever been faced with this kind of climate anxiety. Their minds are dominated by fear. When I was talking to a group of youngsters, one of the boys told me that he is not sure whether he will reach the age of 50. It was very disturbing to listen to a young person saying that he does not know whether he will reach the age of 50. We cannot wish climate change away. We cannot make fun of climate activists or we cannot ignore this problem saying that there is a conspiracy behind it. Our oceans are heating up, rains are acidic, forests are burning, coasts are eroding, sea levels are rising, and people are getting displaced. That is the truth. We are fighting and playing politics over caste, religion, and racial differences. While we are doing all these, we are losing the only habitat known to humankind. This is an existential crisis, and nothing is more important than this. The COP26 meeting was held 1 month ago in Glasgow. This meeting is considered as the most significant meeting of the century because of the crisis in front of us. There were around 6 trillion trees on this earth before agriculture revolution which started nearly 10,000 years ago. Today it is less than half of what was there before the revolution started. Losing our forests is not just losing places of calm and comfort. We are losing the diversity of life, human health, the livelihood it provides, and the climate resilience it gives to the earth. Global warming is simply increasing carbon emissions in the atmosphere more than what can be absorbed by the trees, seas, and natural environment. We should all join our hands together to combat it. The IPCC report of 2018 also warned us that global warming will increase during the 21st century unless there is a massive reduction in greenhouse emissions in the coming decades. The COP26 agreement has set an ambitious goal of reducing it to a level which is equal to the pre-industrial revolution levels. Our Prime Minister has made 5 important commitments in the climate summit. All 5 commitments made by India are about mitigation aspects of climate change. The final commitment of achieving net zero emissions by 2070 has received the highest praise. Sir, I would like to ask what it means to achieve net zero emissions by 2070 for India. How is the government going to achieve this target? We have not even achieved 2/3 of what we have to achieve. So, how are you going to keep up the promise you have made to this world? To achieve its new goals, India will need to do much more in a holistic way. For instance, our country has a target of achieving 40 gigawatts of energy from solar power by 2022. But so far, we have not been able to achieve even 20% of that. In the transport sector, India is expecting an increase of around 30% in the share of the electric vehicles by 2030. Our target is 30%, but it has to be nearly 85 to 100%. How are you going to bridge this gap? The next major roadblock for India achieving its net zero emissions is India's increased reliance on coal for power generation. More than 50% of India's energy needs are met by coal alone, and more than 60% are from fossil fuels. While in the past 7 years, the country has invested rupees 5 trillion in renewable energy, the investment in fossil fuel industry has come down only by 4%, which is around rupees 245 trillion. So how are you going to keep the promise you made to the world? The thermal power plants are a major source of carbon emissions. How are we going to reduce this? We did not do anything to cut the emissions. It is because private players do not want to spend money on methods to cut down the emissions, and even the government did not want to do it. I would like to ask whether it is human lives or the costs which are more important. It is very clear that the reliance on coal for energy in India will continue, and it will peak by 2040. After that, demand for energy will fall, and then only you will be able to reach your net zero target by 2070. You have not started honoring your commitments. You are just pushing deadlines. How will you achieve what you have promised to do? Sir, everybody blames the developed nations, and it is true that all of us are paying the price for what the developed nations did. Today, India wants to position itself as the voice of the developing nations and the third world countries. It is our duty to make sure that they have made a commitment of rupees $100 billion to combat climate change. What have we done to ensure that this commitment made by these nations is fulfilled? Today, what we eat, how we travel, and how we live has an impact on environment. Who is making profits out of it? It is the big corporate companies. These corporate companies do not let justice be done to people. Their lobbies will not allow the governments to make policy changes, and they do not allow justice to be done to the people. We have examples like the Union Carbide plant. After 35 years of that incident, people are still seeking justice. They have not got what they have to be given. The compensation has not been given to them, and there is no clean up either. Whatever was dumped there is still lying around. Without getting justice for the common people, what are we going to do? How are we going to keep the promises made to the world? Sir, we talk about so many disasters. We talk about refugees around the world. We talk about the people who are affected because of political turmoil and other reasons. But we forget to talk about climate refugees. These people are going to constitute the largest number of people in the future. According to statistics, an average of 26 million people around the world have been forcibly displaced by floods, wind storms, earthquakes, and droughts. By 2050, this number will increase to 28 million. They will have to leave their places and move and run as refugees because of climate change. Sadly, the Refugee Convention in 1951 did not talk about the climate refugees, and we did not care about them at that time. We did not even know much about them. but it is the responsibility of countries like India to make sure that these climate refugees are included and there is a definition for climate refugees so that their plight can be addressed and the world can be more sympathetic towards them.